Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Bava Basra Yud Zayin. We are holding on Tue Jul with Beis right on the bottom line. Tana Rabbanan, we have learned in a brisa Shloisha. Throughout our history, there were three tzaddikim. Hit imana kadosh baruch hu b'olam hazeh, that Hashem gave them a taste in this world, me'ein olam haba, reminiscent of the world to come. He gave them a taste of olam haba. Elohein, who are these three? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Naturally, Avram. How do we know? The Chsibei Bakoil. We have Vashem Berach as Avram Bakoil. Remember yesterday we focused on that pasuk. So here we have another aspect of that pasuk. Bakoil. He gave him everything. Everything includes a taste of Olam Haba. Likewise, Yitzchak. The Chsibei Mikoil. It says Va'ichal Mikoil. So Mikoil refers to this experience as well. Yaakov as well. The Chsibei Koil. He told Esav Yeshli Koil, covering this point as well. Continues the Gemara, Shloisha. There were three tzaddikim, the same ones, actually. Lo yishalak behen yetzer hara. Ultimately, after all their work and effort to conquer the yetzer hara, they vanquished the yetzer hara. And the yetzer hara no longer affected them. They incorporated the energy of the yetzer hara into their spiritual experience, and it was transformed and converted into good. Elohein, who are these three? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. How do we know? Because by them we have the expressions of Bakoil, right? Or Mikoil, or Koil, depending on who, right? So that is meant to allude that their spiritual existence covered and incorporated everything, even the Yetzer Hara. And incidentally, that's why in Harachman, right, in the Tefillos at the end of Birchas Hamazon, we ask Hashem to grant us a bracha bakoil mikoil koil. Right, it comes from here. Some add another name, Av David HaMelech as well. My heart, Yetzer Hara, was emptied. It's a vacuum. So I totally vanquished the Yetzer Hara. V'idach. Now the first opinion, who did not include David HaMelech, the reason is because Sarai hu dekam mitkar. This pasuk is not indicating as such. Rather, he's lamenting about his experiences, about his hardships, that I've gone through so much. My emotions are deadened within me. Tana Rabbanan Shisha. There were three individuals. Lo yishalat behen malach hamavis. When they passed away, it was not due to the Malach HaMavis appearance. It was Hashem drawing them back to their source, a very spiritual type of death called Misas Nishika. Like Hashem Kaviyachal kisses them and draws them back to their source. A very, very lofty form of passing away. Ve'eluhein, who are these six tzaddikim? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. How do we know? Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Dechsibu, Makol, Mikol, because we have these expressions by the Avos, and Rashi explains. They had everything possible, everything good possible, and we're going to see in a minute that by Moshe and Aaron we find that the pasuk clearly indicates that they passed away in this fashion, which is a very lofty, heavenly way of passing away, a big honor, a big kavod, indicating high stature. So Rashi says, Bakoil Mikol Kol indicates that they also were not missing any kavod. Apparently it included this experience as well. Okay, and then we go to Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. How do we know? Dechsibu al pi Hashem, because by Moshe and Aaron, they passed away al pi Hashem, which is through the misa of Shechina, through being drawn back by the Shechina. Asks the Gemara, hold it. Va Miriam lo ksib al pi Hashem. By Miriam, we don't have this lashon. Amar Belazar, Miriam nami. She as well, but Neshika Moshe passed away in this fashion. How do we know the Asya? We learn through Gzeira Shava. We connect Atamas Sham Miriam, Tabayamas Sham Moshe, right? So we have the Gzeira Shava, Sham Shami Moshe. She passed away in the same fashion as Moshe. So why doesn't the Torah specifically mention it? By Miriam, because speaking in this fashion of Al Pi Hashem by the Isha is less than dignified. But of course she had the same experience. Tana Rabbanan, we have another list. Shiva, there were three tzaddikim, Lo yishalat behen rima v'sayleya. They did not experience post-death worming. Elohein, who are these 7, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. So far, it's the same. Rashi explains because, we'll see in a minute how we know that they were free of this experience. Ubenyamin ben Yaakov, he was added to the list. Benyamin ben Yaakov. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, how do we know? And we learned a minute ago, it means that they passed away through the Neshika of the Shekhinah, meaning they were not exposed to the Malach HaMavis's tipa, his drop of mara, of some sort of poison that kills a person. And Rashi says that mara material is what triggers the decomposure and the exposure to the Rima V'Seileya. So they didn't have that exposure. And therefore, they were free of any worming effects. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam as well, the Chsibu al Pi Hashem, so they didn't have the Malach HaMavis experience. And Benyamin ben Yaakov, how do we know? The Chsib, Benyamin Amar, Yedid Hashem, Yishkoin Levetach, all of you'll dwell securely, Levetach, you'll be free of any Rima V'Seileya. Some add Av David HaMelech as well, the Chsiv, Av Pesari, Yishkoin Levetach, my flesh will be protected. Why didn't the other Shita include David HaMelech? Because again, it's just a tefillah. Who was asking, who says it was really granted, and who says he really had that experience? There were 4 individuals in this world who passed away, nothing to do with their averis, with their deficiencies, simply because of the decree applied to humanity, based on triggered through the etiyah, the eitzah, the advice, bad advice given by the Nachash, the original snake, who coerced Adam and Chava to sin. So that's why they died, simply because they're part of humanity. So for nothing else other than that. Ve'eluain, who are these 4 individuals? Benyamin ben Yaakov, Ve'amram Avi Moshe, Amram Moshe's father, Ve'yishai Avi David, David HaMelech's father Yishai, Yekilav ben David, Ve'kulu Gemara. This is all by tradition, that's how we know these, except for one which is clearly in the Pasuk, Levar, except Me'yishai Avi David, the Mefarish Bekrut learned from a Pasuk T'chsev, Vesamos, or some Avshalom. Avshalom appointed Amasa, Tachas Yoav instead of Yoav, as general, al Hatzava. Who was this person Amasa? Amasa, he was Ben Ish, the son of a man, whose name was Yisra Yisraeli, whose wife was Ashabal El Abigail, Bas Nachash, the daughter of Nachash. Abigail, the daughter of Nachash. Achos Tzeruya, the sister of Tzeruya, mother of Yoav. Asks the Gemara, V'chi Bas Nachashi, since when was Abigail Nachash's daughter? V'alei Bas Yishai. She was Yishai's daughter. The Chsiv, because the pasuk describing the kids of Yishai includes them together. V'achiyseim Tzeruya of Abigail. Right. So apparently, Abigail was his daughter. So why are we calling her daughter of Nachash? It's not his real name, just describing his status. Ela Bas Mishameis Be'atish Nachash. It means to say that she was the daughter of Yishai, whose only reason for passing away was because of the chait of the Eitz Hadas, which came about through the Eitzah of the Nachash. Hadra Nachashut. Says the Mishnah, Lo Yachbar Adam Bur. Say we speak about the obligation of a neighbor to refrain from any activities that can cause harm to his neighbor or his neighboring property. So you have to keep a distance, you have to keep a setback, an offset from the boundary line when you bring about certain phenomenon which can theoretically reach over and damage his property. For instance, one should not dig a pit, a water pit, near his neighbor's pit. There are 2 ways to learn in terms of what the concern is. Rashi seems to learn it's because of the weakening of the soil. You're weakening the soil and damaging his firmness. Whereas Taisus focuses more on the content. It's full of water, it's going to leak, it's going to moisten his property, and that's the problem. In any case, you have to set back before you do that. All types of pits. A bur is typically a round, deep round pit. Leisiach is a long, narrow pit. V'lema'ara is an underground cavity, or a canal, irrigation canal, or in a laundering pit. Provided that you can do so, provided that you kept a 3 tefach distance from your friend. And you have to seal your pit with sid, with lime, to make it waterproof to contain its content. Another example of harchakas nezak, and distancing a potential damage causation. Umarchikim es hagefes, all types of materials that can exude fumes or acid or all kinds of damaging effects. Umarchikim es hagefes, gefes Rashi says is olive skins after they were pressed. Ves hazevel, animal manure. Ves hamelach, salt. Ves hasid, lime. Ves haslime, these fire-producing stones. Sierra, let's say there's a brick, a brick wall on the property line, so you have to keep that away from your friend's wall, lest these things damage his wall. And you have to seal the wall with lime. The Gemara will discuss whether this is in addition to offset or instead of offsetting. Finally, says the Mishnah, you shouldn't be planting your plants, nor plowing, personal waters. So all these things again have to be kept away because they can damage the wall. What about a grinder which has two sections, right? It has the bottom stone, which is called shechev, which is wider than the top stone, a tefach wider, and the top one is called rechev because it rides on the bottom one. So this can cause vibration which can damage the wall. So you have to keep it away. 4 tefachim, marchikin es rechaim shloisha min shechev. So in terms of offsetting the bottom wider part, it's 3 tefach from the wall. Shein mabar min rechev, which turns out to be 4 tefach offset from the top. The top section has a 4 tefach offset. If the bottom one is 3, the top one has a 4 tefach offset because it's narrower than the bottom one, so it results in a bigger offset. Likewise, when it comes to placing an oven near the neighboring wall, that's a tanner. So again, an oven has the same system. It's wider on bottom, narrower on top. So it's going to be 3 tefach offset between the base of the tanner and the wall, which ends up being 4 tefach offset, 4 tefach gap between the wall and the lip on top. Asks the Gemara, if we take a close look at the wording in the beginning of the Mishnah, it says, adam bar, samach lebar shechaver. Don't place your bar near the other bar. You read 2 more lines. How far a gap do you need? 3 tefach mikaisel chaver, from a wall. Why do we start speaking about a gap from you to the other fellow's bar, and then we speak about relative to the other fellow's wall? A wall is typically an above ground structure. Well, what's going on? Are we speaking below ground or above ground? No, we're speaking about near the other fellow's bar. When it says keep away 3 tefachim from kaisel chaver, it doesn't mean an above ground wall, an above ground structure. It means the wall surrounding his pit. Right? So that's also called a kaisel. I mean the solid material around an in-ground pit is called a kaisel. So basically, if he has a bar on the other side of the property line, which presumably has some wall material around it, right? He also kept his bar 3 tefach from the property line. So there's a kaisel there. There's 3 tefach of material surrounding that bar. There's a 3 tefach gap between the property line and the actual hole. So now on your side as well, you have to dig your pit 3 tefach from that virtual wall, from that property line. Question is, why does the Mishnah even have to mention this? I mean, obviously, you can't suggest that one will dig a pit. You're going to dig your bar 3 tefach from his bar? I mean, maybe his bar is 10 amos in his property, so you can dig your bar right near his bar in his property. That's ridiculous, right? So it's pretty obvious that when the Mishnah says keep your bar 3 tefach away from his bar, it means 3 tefach from the property line, right? Which is going to be the beginning of his kaisel of his bar. Right? It's pretty obvious. Why does Mishnah even have to mention that? But listen, the Mishnah should simply say, Elam ken hirch mibayre. You can place your pit 3 tefach away from the other person's pit, i.e., a 3 tefach virtual wall surrounding his pit, which is exactly at the property line. So you keep 3 tefach from the property line, and then dig your bar. Elam ken hirch mibayre shechaver gimot tefachim. So why does the Mishnah have to express this, as a hakamash malon? The answer is like this. The Mishnah is teaching us a side point. That certainly the first fellow, let's call the first fellow Ruvain. Now you're Shimon trying to put a burr near the property line, which is near his pit. Ruvain initially, when he made his pit, also needed to offset, needed to make a setback, right? A 3 tefach setback from the property line. And now when Shimon comes and introduces his pit is going to be 3 tefach from the property line, which is the beginning of the wall of Reuven's burr, right? That's the assumption we're working with, right? So the point of the Mishnah is simply to teach us that the material around a pit is meant to be 3 tefachim. That's called a kaisel. A kaisel burr is 3 tefachim. And what's the point of mentioning this? Hakamashman, the kaisel burr 3 tefachim. It's just a side point which is important to know for business purposes. Right? When you buy a pit. Reuven tells Shimon, unrelated to our discussion, just a general choshen mishpat question. I'm selling you a bar with its walls. How far-reaching are those walls? I mean, how much is considered a wall? We're not speaking about, by the way, a concrete envelope around a bar. We're speaking about plain earth material, which forms a sort of a virtual wall around a bar. How far does that go? How far does that stretch? How wide is considered kaisel bar? Right? It's 3 wall. It's 3 tefachim. That's the point of the Mishnah. Okay, so again, Reuven has a pit on his side. Presumably he dug 3 tefach on the property line, just as you have to do so he did the same. Now when you're adding your bar, 3 tefach from the property line, it's 3 tefach from Reuven's earth envelope around this bar, which is called the kaisel bar. And that kaisel bar begins at the property line and extends 3 tefach till the bar. So you see that a kaisel bar is 3 tefach. It's more. Here comes another discussion. Suppose nobody has a pit at this point. So Reuven is trying to introduce, he's going to be the first one to introduce a well near the property line. Is that okay? Or does he have to account for the possibility that in the future Shimon will add his bar as well and he has to accommodate him? And therefore, he has to accommodate him now and already make that setback from the property line to allow for Shimon's bar in the future. A fellow was coming to introduce a bar at the property line. Is that okay? Or does he have to make a setback? Abaye Amar Soimech. Go ahead. So let's say if they both come at the same time, so each one has to set back 3 tefachim from the line. But if there's nobody there at this point, first come, first serve, right? For Rabbi Amar, no, you can't do that. You have to anticipate future developments, which may feature your neighbor's bar as well. So you have to make a 3 tefach setback. Now, what field are we speaking about? What kind of property? Are we expecting bars to be dug or not? If it's a beis hashalachan, a field which is manually watered, it typically has its own water source, and typically is meant for digging wells. All agree you can't just go put your bar there because you have to anticipate your neighbor wanting to do the same. The question is, a place where you don't have bars. Abaye Amar Soimech. Reuben could put his bar right at the property line. You're not expecting burrs on the other side of the property line. Rav Amar he has no right to do that. The Amalei, because his neighbor can tell him, look, it's just like you decided one day to put a bar there. Me too. I don't know me. I'm going to decide one day perhaps to also add a bar. You have to account for that. And therefore, you have to apply a setback. Ikadamri, there was another version of this discussion. So the second version is more lenient than the first version. If it's a place where you don't expect burrs to be dug, all agree, even Rav agrees it's okay. Machlekes is only when you expect burrs. Abaya Amar Samich, you can still do that. Why? Even according to the Chachamim Shita, who say later on in Bava Basra, Marchikin es ha'ilim min abar, Esr mechamesh amma. So, let's say there is a bar in the neighboring property. A totally different halach. A bar in a neighboring property. And you're trying to plant a tree nearby, on your side of the boundary. Can you do that? Rabbanan say you have to keep 25 amma away from the bar because ultimately your roots are going to grow into his bar. So even according to that school of thought, that you require the mazik, the potential damager to keep a distance. Yeah, there it's different because when I plant my tree, the bar is already there. So I'm required to account for it. But in our case, my neighbor has no pits yet. When I introduce my bar, there's no bar next door. So I'm allowed to do that. Rava disagrees. He goes the other way. I have no right to place my bar in close proximity to your potential bar. Even Rabbi according to Rabbi Yossi, disagrees with the Chachamim's opinion about the tree. He holds that a potential victim, he has to protect himself. I don't have to worry about causations. You have to protect yourself. You can dig your pit on your side. I can plant my tree, right? No problem. Yeah, that's only over there because Hani Mili, that's true. Hasam there, the Be'idna, the Konata, because when I plant my tree, less than Lisha Rasha, the masculine labur, the roots haven't yet grown out, haven't yet extended themselves into your property, so there's no immediate damage. Causation, okay, you worry about it just as much as I do. I don't have to account for it. But over here, when I dig a pit right on the property line, it's not just a garama, I'm not just causing, I'm actually damaging your property as I'm going along and digging up that property and weakening the foundations of your property. Here, his neighbor can tell him, look, kol mara umara the kol machis. Every dig, every shovel that you're sticking into the ground, you're weakening my ground. So therefore, he's allowed to ask him to offset. So bottom line, there's no pit next door. Can I place my pit on the property line? Abaye says yes. Rabbi says no. We have two versions. Version number one says, if it's a field where you anticipate boires, all agree you cannot do that. A place where you don't expect boires, Abaye says it's okay. Rabbi says it's not. According to the second version, if it's a place where you don't expect boires, all agree it's okay. Well, you do expect boires, Abaye says yes, Rabbi says no. Now, let's go back to our Mishnah and figure it out. Mishnah clearly says the restriction is not to place a bar near the neighboring bar. Apparently there's a pre-existing bar there and that's generating the concerns. Time with the bar, it's only because there is already a bar next door. But if there's no bar in existence, you can place your bar right on the property line. Which is exactly how a discussion. So according to the second version, we can work it out. Because we say if it's a place where you don't expect pits to be dug, all agree you can place your pit next to the line. So yeah, masnissen. So we can learn that our Mishnah is speaking about this type of field. Okay, so we're good. But according to the first version, which is more achmer, which is more strict, which says even a property where you don't expect pits, pligi, we still have the machlekes, and Rabbi says it's not okay. So Bishlam so going to buy it's okay because he said that's fine. Rabbi who says it's not okay, then kasha. How do we explain the Mishnah, which seems to say it's okay? Rabbi will respond, heard my law. But remember, a minute ago, haven't we already learned? Haven't we already explained on the Mishnah? Amar Abaye already explained. V'yiteimer Rabbi Yehuda, some say it was Rabbi Yehuda. Mikoisel bar sheminu. That now Mishnah actually It's telling us to keep away from the property line. That your bur, your actual cavity, the hole has to be 3 tefach from the property line, i.e., the beginning of your neighbor's virtual wall. Theoretical, potential wall around his pit. There you go, so that's perfect, says Rava. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Your bor has to be 3 tefach from the property line. Right? In anticipation of your neighbor's possible bor as well. You can't just put your bor on the property line. Ikadamri, there was another version of this discussion which actually flips around the kasha onto Abaye. Because if this, in fact, is the correct interpretation of the Mishnah, which Abaye himself proposed earlier, then the Mishnah, in fact, is telling us that, even when there's no bor on the other side, you have to keep away from his potential bor. We have the Mishnah, and we have the Pshat on the Mishnah in the name of Abaye himself. Omar Abaye, Rabbi Yehuda, Mikoisel Bar Shaninu. Now your pit has to be 3 tefach from your neighbor's potential wall around this pit. I.e., you have to be 3 tefach from the property line. You can't place a bar right on the property line. So Bishlam Lach Nishn Amrus. So according to the second version of the Gemara, according to the first version, that if it's a place where you typically dig, all agree you have to keep away even prior to your neighbor's bur being there. Mas Nisan, so our Mishnah as well is speaking Besada Asui Labur is a place which has burrs. Elach Lishan the Amras. Besada Asui Labur is Pligi according to the second Lashon. Even this type of field can be okay according to Abaye. Bishlam the Rava Nicha. So according to Rava, the Mishnah seems to say it's Asur, and that works according to Rava. El Abaye Kasha, according to Abaye, who says that it is okay, but the Mishnah says it isn't. Abaye says, you know what, the Mishnah is speaking about an exceptional case. We were talking about when there's no bur next door. I'm the first one on the scene. Abaye says it's okay. But here, Masnisin, Shabo Lachbar Bavas Achas. Both neighbors, Reuben and Shimon, arrive on the same very day with their bobcats to dig up that bur. They both came simultaneously. So of course in this case, they have to accommodate each other. Okay, so let's try for another raya. Tashma. Salah Babi Yadayim. You have this very permeable, very soft, collapsible earth. So, how do you dig over there? Zeh chayfer bar mikan, v'zeh chayfer bar mikan. So Reuben and Shimon, either one, they can dig a bar on their side. But, you have to keep a distance. Zeh marchik shleisha tvachim v'sad basid, v'zeh marchik shleisha tvachim v'sad basid. You have to make a 3 tefach setback, plus seal it with lime. So what do we see? Whenever you dig a pit, there is a halacha of a 3 tefach setback. Even if you're the first one on the scene. That's a kasha on Abaye. Babi Yadayim Shani. Soft, collapsible earth material, that's very different. Because, you're totally weakening the other person's property. That's a direct mazik. Asks the Gemara, the Ka'arla, the one who asked the question from this price on Abaye, my Ka'arla, what was he thinking? This is a totally different case. No, Babi Yadayim is Tzrichalei. He thought that the Brisa, with its halacha, would apply in any case. And it would be a kasha on Abaye, because we see a setback is required regardless. The Brisa chose to focus on soft material just to bring out a point. Babi Yadayim is strichel. It was an extra lesson here. Perhaps I would think, given the Babi Yadayim, since it's soft material, you need more than 3 tefach. Kamash, the point of the Brisa is no, 3 tefach is sufficient, but perhaps it would apply on firm earth as well, and would be a kasha on Abaye, but we answered it that no, this setback is required only because of this type of material. Okay, let's recap today's DAF. We had lists and lists of tzaddikim who were zeicha to Eilam Haba, to vanquish the Yetzer Hara entirely, to have misas neshika, to be unaffected by rima v'seleya. The only reason for the death was because of the chet etzadas. We spoke about archakas nizakin. So in a case where they're both coming to dig together, they have to keep a 3 tefach setback on either side of the property line for a total of 6 tefach, right? Between the two actual pits. But otherwise, suppose there's no bar on the other side. What happens now? Abaye says it's okay to put it right near the property line and let the other fellow worry about it. When he comes to dig his pit, he'll have to make a 6 tefach gap between the property line at this point. Taisus points this out, right? Because if I put my bur at the property line, if I'm allowed to do that, then when you come later, the cavity of your bur has to be 6 tefach away from the cavity of my bur. Rabbi says, no, you have to anticipate, you have to expect. Bur is next door, you have to keep a setback regardless. You have 2 versions of the Gemara in terms of whether we're speaking about a place where you expect burrs or not. We try to have some kashas, which were answered. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.